Hello and welcome to the continuation of last week's discussion about characteristics of hazards. Last week we talked about what a hazard and a hazard event are and the characteristics of a hurricane. So if you missed that, make sure to check on the website to check the first part of this series. Today we're going to start by talking about earthquakes. Now, earthquakes are when the Earth's surface starts to suddenly and violently shake. They come without much warning and last for tens of seconds, and they're followed by powerful aftershocks. Earthquakes kill about 10,000 people per year on average. And there are two key terms when it comes to talking about earthquakes. One is the focus, which is the place beneath the ground where the earthquake actually takes place, and the epicenter, which is the point directly above the focus on the surface of the Earth. So you have the focus and then the epicenter on top of it. As we know, the Earth's surface is composed of many tectonic plates which move in relation to each other constantly. So earthquakes are caused by the friction caused between the sliding and collision and separation of these tectonic plates. So, as a result, they generally occur along the boundaries of said tectonic plates. While earthquakes occur near all types of boundaries, different boundaries result in earthquakes with different characteristics. For example, deep focus earthquakes occur near convergent boundaries, while shallow focus earthquakes occur near divergent and conservative boundaries. Another difference that is caused by the type of boundary in which the earthquake takes place is the spatial distribution of the earthquakes. For example, broader belts of earthquakes are associated with convergent boundaries, while conservative and divergent boundaries are associated with narrower belts of earthquakes. Now, not every earthquake is created equal. There are many different factors that affect the damage an earthquake will cause. For example, the strength and depth of the earthquake as well as the number of aftershocks that follow it. Stronger and shallower earthquakes will cause more damage and are more dangerous, while a greater number of aftershocks also increases the damage caused by an earthquake. The location of an earthquake also has an effect on how much damage it will cause. For example, an earthquake won't cause the same amount of damage for a group of nomads living in the desert to a earthquake happening in Haiti, and that won't be the same as an earthquake happening in Tokyo. And this is a result of different population densities, so there are a different amount of people, so it will have a different effect on a different amount of people, and the types of building that are present in more economically developed countries versus less economically developed countries. For example, countries such as Japan have developed a lot of techniques to make very earthquake-resistant buildings, as opposed to places like Haiti. The time of the day is also important, as more people will be out and about and will be more exposed to, or even if other factors that affect damage will be the time of the day that the earthquake occurs, the distance from the epicenter, the types of rocks and sediments that compose the earth around the earthquake, the secondary hazards that might arise because of the earthquake, such as mudslides and tsunamis, as well as I mentioned earlier, the economic development of the country in which the earthquake occurs. When it comes to dealing with them, there are two main ways to minimize the damage dealt by earthquakes. One is improving forecasting and warning systems, such as monitoring small-scale movements of plates, detecting strange and unusual animal behavior, especially in carp, and the use of historic evidence to analyze trends and patterns in where and when earthquakes occur to be able to forecast potential earthquakes. And the second way is to improve the design of buildings, having emergency locations and procedures in case of an earthquake event. So one is forecasting and one is reacting to it. So in summary, earthquakes are relatively rare and more random than regular, short in duration, limited in areal extent, have a fast speed of onset, and are very concentrated. Unfortunately, we don't have time to discuss another hazard in this video. However, we will continue and try to finish up with droughts and human-induced hazards next week. Thank you for watching and see you then.